I'm going to start with just a couple personal notes. I see a lot of old friends out here. For those of you who have known me for a long time, I used to wear glasses. I had cataract surgery. I just finished up 2.5 weeks ago. So I have new bionic eyeballs. And I went from being nearsighted to farsighted. So I can see the audience well, but I can't read anything anymore. So if you see me fumbling up here with glasses, that's kind of the reason behind that. The other thing I think I'll mention is I'll bet you I'm the only speaker who doesn't have a PowerPoint slide. So I won't give you a lot of PowerPoints. And I think my talk will be pretty short, but I'll be happy to take some questions when I'm done. So my prepared remarks, glasses on and off. I am humbled to be here today. As I look through the list of speakers, I realize that I'm being asked to be the opener for some of the rock stars of forestry here in the Pacific Northwest. The speakers lined up are really a veritable who's who of forestry here in our region. And I'm really looking forward to listening to all these folks over the next couple of days. Despite my 30-plus years of working forestry issues here in Western Oregon, first as a ground-pounding forester and now as a kind of policy wonk for Oregon-Washington BLM, I have no doubt that I'm going to walk away with some new insights, some new knowledge, some new understandings that will help me in my policy role with BLM. And for the BLM, I think these new ideas are critical for my agency's future, for staying relevant here in the region. I debated whether I wanted to do this, but I am going to do it. I'm going to flash back briefly to a little over 30 years ago when I started with the BLM as a silvicultural forester in the Medford district. Back then, my job was all about getting the cutout. You've heard that a lot from BLM before. I remember going in awe to sessions like this and listening to people like Dr. Mike Newton talk about high-intensity production management. That's what the ONC lands, the BLM, was all about. The northern spotted owl was a bird of interest, but it was more of an inconvenience than a species to be managed for. We didn't have late successional reserves or critical habitat. We had SOMAs and SOHAs. So how many folks in the audience remember what those acronyms are, SOMAs and SOHAs? A few hands. SOMAs, spotted owl management areas, SOHAs, spotted owl habitat areas. That's how we manage for the owl. And a guy named Eric Forsman was just starting out on his path to recognition as a highly acclaimed biologist. But those days of my youth as a young agency professional are long gone. And unless a court tells us differently, I don't think those days are coming back for the BLM. The things we'll hear here over the next couple of days are important to me and the BLM's future. And I sincerely hope the BLM's future is important to the social and ecological framework of this region, Western Oregon. As I look through the agenda and the list of topics that Paul briefly touched on, I was really heartened to see the diversity of topics we're going to be talking about over the next few days. And I was also heartened by the framework in which this whole symposium is put together. The partnership represented by all the upcoming speakers is phenomenal. If I counted correctly, there's at least 11 different agencies, organizations on the agenda. And I'm just going to run through those really quickly. There's the BLM, the Forest Service, Pacific Northwest and Southwest Research Stations, USGS, the University of Oregon, the National Council for Air and Stream Improvement, Oregon State University, the Earth Systems Institute, Weyerhaeuser, and Virginia Tech. They're all represented here. What a breadth of experience and knowledge. And I really like that Virginia Tech tie. I like having some East Coast representation because any of those who follow BLM policy and challenges know that we're getting litigated on both sides of the country, both Washington, D.C. and here on the West Coast. So it's good to have some East Coast representation here. And the topics are as diverse as the partnership. we'll be talking about topics that I don't even think were in my forestry books back when I went to forestry school. And I hate to admit it sometimes, but I went to a forestry powerhouse called the University of Illinois. Not something you hear about a lot on the West Coast. Anyway, some of those topics we'll be talking about. Carbon storage, that wasn't in my textbook. Songbird response, low mobility species, interesting topic, wasn't considered back in my early days. And how about slope failure as a good thing? Times have changed. I can't help but tell a little aside here. Once again, for those of you who follow BLM at all, you know that we have some secretarial pilots going on in 3 of our districts trying to demonstrate the ecological principles of Doctors Norm Johnson and Jerry Franklin. And Jerry's not here, so I'm going to tell a little story on him. Back in March, he gave a presentation to a large audience down in Canyonville about some of the principles they were talking about. And he talked about some of his learnings over his career. And his story really stuck with me. He talked about, somebody asked him a question, Dr. Franklin, how could you be talking about changing riparian management from what's been, for all intents and purposes, codified in the Northwest Forest Plan? And Jerry looked out and he said, you know, when I was a young forester, I came across a big log laying on the floor in the forest. He said, I thought of 3 things. I thought, what a waste of wood, what an impediment to travel, and what a fire hazard. I don't think any of us would think that way about coarse woody debris anymore. So times do change, and these kinds of programs, the research that's been done here helps inform that thinking. So what is the future of forest management for the BLM lands in Western Oregon? If I had the perfect answer for that, I'd probably be a highly paid consultant rather than a policy wonk for the BLM. Or maybe I'd even be a member of Congress, because we seem to be getting some interest from Congress on what the future of BLM lands are too. Anyway, I don't have the perfect answer, but I think I can read some of the tea leaves. I'm pretty confident that our future has to be different than our not so distant past. And I also know that we have lots of people willing to help us clarify our future mission, our future vision. That's the nature of BLM right now. I'm also fairly confident that to be relevant, BLM's future has to include the topics that we'll be discussing at this workshop. Our actions have to be socially acceptable because we manage the public's land. So we're managing for a wide variety of objectives. And we have topics on social acceptability. We will be managing for old growth, both retention of what we have and growing new old growth. We have topics on the agenda about managing old growth. Carbon storage will be a consideration in our management scenarios. Topics on carbon storage. Providing a variety of wildlife habits, both early and late seral, will be part of our management objectives. I feel pretty confident about that. Managing for water quality and quantity is going to be of key importance, both from an ecological point of view and from a social point of view. All this stuff is on the agenda. Our management decisions have to make us good neighbors, and the public, the taxpayer, will expect us to provide for economic activity as well as environmental benefits. The BLM has a huge challenge as it gazes into its crystal ball for what our future is going to be. And we are continually reminded that we have to let others gaze into that ball with us. BLM's not forging their own future. We're doing it through partnerships, through research, applied science. Is density management alone the key to BLM's successful future? I don't think that will be the case, but it certainly is a very important tool in our toolbox. And it's been an important tool in us meeting our management objectives almost exclusively over the last few years. Paul said the conference celebrates 10 years of density management. The talking points my staff gave me said there's 30 years, so my talking points say we're celebrating 30 years of coordinated effort and partnership around the topic of density management. I think that's pretty cool. We've learned that this approach can be used on many portions of the landscape. We're thinning for commercial production, we're thinning for habitat improvement, we're thinning to try to accelerate attainment of old growth characteristics. We're doing it all on the BLM lands. We've learned that we can create desired structure and composition. We can create wildlife habitat, fish habitat, and economic activity. I'm hoping that we can take some of the learning from this conference, these things that I'm so interested in hearing about over the next couple days, and use it to help BLM forge a new vision for the future. Because ultimately, our forests, our wildlife, our fisheries, and our communities depend on it. So that's the end of my remarks. I will take a few questions if we have time. Not enough coffee. Hi, Jeff. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. What's going on with the collaborative process?
What's going on with the collaborative process? Just a little while ago, the BLM commissioned the U.S. Institute for Environmental Conflict Resolution, which is a federal agency out of the Udall Institute in Tucson, Arizona, and Oregon Consensus to do what we called a collaborative inquiry. And we had a neutral third party call some stakeholders, representative sample. It wasn't meant to be all-inclusive, but we wanted to test the pulse of, see if people wanted to do a collaborative effort. We want to find a different way to do our planning than we've done in the past. So we hired these people to do some phone calls. They interviewed 34 people, the environmental community, academia, timber interests, the counties, and we got a sense. So they're working on their report, and we won't really have a report. It's just going to be a PowerPoint slide. We're working with the governor's office to see if there's a future, if people want to really participate, if they think it's worth the effort for all the controversy that has surrounded BLM management. But so that's where we're at right now. We haven't made a decision whether or not we're actually going to do it. I'm hopeful that we will. I think if the BLM heads into a new planning process and we want people to be involved, we have to convey that it's going to be different than last time. Otherwise, why would we expect any different kind of outcome? So we're looking at that potentiality right now. And as I understand it, the governor is back east right now. I think he had a meeting with our secretary yesterday. But no decision's been made, but it's an idea I've been pushing for quite a while, and I'm hoping we move forward with that.